October the 15th, 2019. The time is now 6 p.m. Regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Trinidad will now come to order. Would you please rise for pledge of allegiance? Donna, would you please lead us?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Bernardo,
Here.
Fiddle,
Here.
Griego, here, Lopez,
Here.
Matei,
Here.
Miles,
Here.
Rico.
Here. We have a proclamation for World Polio Day. Whoever's going to accept it, could you come forward?
Yeah. Up this way. Straight
Yeah,
on.
straight forward.
Okay.
Office of the Mayor, Trinidad, Colorado, proclamation, World Polio Day, October the 24th, 2019. Whereas Rotary is a global network of 1.2 million neighbors, friends, leaders, and problem solvers who unite and take action to create lasting change in communities across the globe. Rotary's motto is service above self, inspiring members to provide humanitarian service, follow high ethical standards, and promote goodwill and peace in the world. And whereas Rotary in 1978 created a test program successfully eliminating polio from the country of the Philippines. In 1985, Rotary launched Polio Plus, a program to eliminate polio from the planet Earth, and in 1988 helped establish the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, which today includes the World Health Organization, U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, UNICEF, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, with the collective purpose of immunizing the children of the world against polio. And whereas polio cases have dropped by 99.9% since 1988, and the world stands on the threshold of eradicating the disease, and whereas to date, Rotary has contributed more than $1.9 billion and countless volunteer hours to protecting more than 2.5 billion children in 122 countries. Rotary is working to raise an additional $50 million per year, which would be leveraged for maximum impact by an additional $100 million annually from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And whereas these efforts are providing much needed operational support, medical staff, laboratory equipment, and educational materials for health workers and parents. In addition, Rotary has played a major role in decisions by donor governments to contribute more than $8 billion to the effort. And whereas, over the last 100 years, Rotarian members of the Trinidad Rotary Club have sponsored service projects to address such critical issues as community improvement, poverty, disease, hunger, illiteracy, and the environment in Trinidad and abroad. Now therefore, I, Philip T. Rico, Mayor of the City of Trinidad, Colorado, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby congratulate Rotary on its massive past and ongoing efforts and proclaim October the 24th as World Polio Day in Trinidad, Colorado, and encourage all citizens to join us and Rotary International in the fight for a polio-free world. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of this city to be affixed. Mayor Philip T. Rico, October the 15th, 2019.
Sir, would you like to identify yourself, please?
What?
Would you identify yourself, please?
Oh. I'm Dennis Scott, a 20-year resident of Trinidad after I retired.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it. Good
Thank you so much, Mayor. And the City Council.
By the way, we're having a bike ride to raise a little bit of money. If you want to sponsor your favorite Rotarian, get a hold of them and pledge $5 or $10, we'd appreciate it.
Okay.
That's going to come up in another 2 or 3 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 2, approval of the agenda. Does council have any changes? If not, could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
call a vote?
Benado,
Yes.
Goodall,
Yes.
Grego,
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Anybody from policy and staff reports? Nothing? Okay. Item 4, petitions or communications, are all written. Do we have anything, anyone to speak?
We do not.
No. Item 5, consent agenda approval. Item 5A, approval of the regular meeting minutes of October 1st, 2019. Item B, reappointment of Mike Valentine to the ARPA board. Item C, appointment of Carlos Lopez to the ARPA board to fill the unexpired term of Greg Sun. Item D, approval of the bills to the tune of $1,841,224.94. Item E, approval of the payroll of October the 19th, 2019 through November 1, 2019. The total amount of $334,380.94. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Call the vote?
Benado,
Yes.
Goodall,
Yes.
Grego,
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes, minus 5C as I can't vote for myself.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes, except for 5A, I was not present.
Rico.
Yes. Item 6, public hearing. 6A, consideration of an ordinance for the City Council of the City of Trinidad, Colorado, allowing storage containers, shipping containers only on a temporary basis on private property. Hearing is now open. Mike, do you have anything you want to explain to us on that?
Sure, Mayor, members of council, after the first reading, there's been a few changes to clarify the zones, and rather than just at a home, it's on private property. And we added the zone districts of low density, medium density, and historic preservation zoning. So if council approves, it would be with the amendments provided.
Council, have any questions? Mr.
No, I do not, thank you.
Karen?
No, sir.
Lopez?
One thought, I remember a few years back, I brought up if we were going to make any kind of, concedements for people who try to make their units at least look like they're structured. Did we not put any of that language in, or did we not agree to pursue that?
So this is for temporary. If they make it a permanent structure and place it on a foundation and make it, I think we consider it, but this is for temporary.
Which was a
So,
30 days, otherwise unless they have a permit, it was 180 days for a building
right.
period. Okay, that was all I had.
No questions.
Nothing for me. Nothing.
Follow up on what Mr. Lopez was talking about, of those people that want to put it on a foundation. Is that going to have to be a different ordinance? Is that something that we would have to consider? Because that was part of the problem, is that these people are plopping them down and thinking that they could just leave them, and then, and if they're going to keep them there, I think they need to make them look like they're like a decent shed, whether it's, putting siding on it, to something.
Could I talk to that? I think if they're gonna make it a permanent structure, they're gonna have to get a building permit for a foundation and everything, and at that point, we should be able to lay forth the rules. It should be covered at that point, correct? I think that will cover it.
Should be setback rules, the whole works,
Everything
yeah.
will have to come in when they go to make it permanent.
Subject to inspection.
I agree, you bet.
I wish I would have given that answer, I'm sorry. I didn't
Hey,
give it.
I was just, sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead with your answer, Mr.
You probably
Dennis.
were going. I was.
I didn't mean to steal your answer,
Not at
sir.
all, not at all.
Does the building
code address this kind of situation? I'm not
Mike,
familiar, I
does
don't
the
know.
building code address that?
Any permanent structure is addressed in the
Should-
building
right,
code.
Right,
Any,
right.
yeah.
Check it to make sure though.
Okay.
Of course, I'm just speaking as a former, contractor, but I can't imagine that part has changed.
One last thought. What do we have as any remedies if someone, say, decides to just leave it despite what our ordinance states? Do we have any kind of penalties for someone leaving it there?
That's a good question. You mean like grandfathered in, it's there now and now we have the ordinance?
Or should they choose to leave it there for, say like they're doing a project, and then it stays there beyond the 30-day or 180-day period? I didn't see that we had anything that says, okay, after this amount of time you have to move it or you get a fine structure that's imposed.
If it's a non-conforming building, then the code enforcement officer should.
Right.
And do we have anything in the code enforcement that would go through and put any type of punitive damages?
How about if we look into that and we
Right.
look at all those concerns? And if
Okay.
there is, if
I agree.
someone runs afoul of the temporary time period, that we have enforcement mechanisms for making sure that they either remove it as a temporary, container or move to make it permanent within a reasonable time period.
Does this all include all like the businesses, like over there, whatever that is over there by the hospital over there? When you come down Benedicta, there's like a construction thing there.
That's-
Construction site.
that's-
for
that's
the
part of
hospital.
it, yeah.
That's all we have, so
Yeah.
that won't have no bearing on that, cause they're only there for.
Right.
They are there for the duration of construction.
Okay.
And I'm aware
I
of a
didn't know it.
boxcar up in our area that I think is intended for that purpose, but it's been there a while.
Yeah.
The other question I had is that, you have, the 30 days for a container to be, to put on their property. Why did we consider just 30 days, or why not less than that? If they know that they're in the wrong, why 30 days? If people know that they should be.
It might be a logistical situation.
Right, so
Because-
usually, when they have these, it's usually to move or something, and, the pods or something, so we gave them 30 days to unload or, get that done and then get it out.
Okay. The other thing I had is that, and I think you mentioned that in there, any place that there is commercial zoning, that we'll have to do that on a separate ordinance. Like if there's a commercial property that has, put one on there, or puts one on there, and it says something about that there will have to be a separate ordinance, and I'm not sure if that was something.
Right.
I think Audra's shaking her head over there, that's like this, nodding.
Explain yourself, Audra.
I didn't
To
even get
expand
that.
to the commercial zoning district on second reading is too much of a change. To just have that sort of an amendment to this ordinance. So we would want to make sure that we allow for due process and a separate hearing. So, with this change, it's just to expand to identify the zone districts instead of by a house, low density, medium density, and historic preservation. But yes, commercial, we would want separate ordinance again, just for due process purposes.
You might have a business that's next to a residential house, residence, and that's what I'm talking about, that there might be those issues. Okay.
Upon this ordinance being enacted, due process, are we just gonna move to enforcement and let the cards fall where they may, or are we gonna make an attempt to contact those persons who we know about that have these
We should
devices?
contact them.
And give them kind of a heads up, so at least they have some warning to get in compliance rather than have the
I agree.
enforcement people on the door.
We always try to embrace the nice approach.
So I guess it would, be good for us as council and probably people out on the streets, some of our employees, if they see one that's out there, to at least say, I've seen this one here, and report it back to Mike or
Correct.
Make a list of people.
We'll
who
let
know
them
about
know,
it.
and that way they can contact them to say,
Good for
this
us.
is ordinance is coming forward.
I've definitely done that already.
Anyone in the audience to speak for the ordinance?
I believe we should have some others.
Mr. Rico. Council, I've had multi-story buildings on my place for 15 years, or 13 years.
13 years.
And it's painted every other year. And since we have had it, we haven't had no other stuff stolen out of our yard and stuff.
Yeah.
And
The
it's
neighbors
now-
haven't complained?
No, nothing can get in it, no mice, no bugs about on it.
Yeah.
And I keep my hand tools in her and my saddles and trophy stuff.
And it's good that you do that, and I mean, they are very secure, and I think the whole idea behind here is to, behind this ordinance is to make it look, appeasing, you know, to your property.
We don't have any complaints from our neighbors.
Where are you?
In fact,
Pinion Street.
Yeah.
We live next to where Hank Gallish used to live.
Would you please identify yourselves for the record? I'm sorry.
Linda and Arch Hot.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
But that would be the only thing that we probably have you address, you know, down the road, rather than remove it, you know, if you want to dress it up to make it look, no, that would be something.
That'd be
talk-
fine.
You can talk to our building, department,
Okay,
and they can advise you what you have to do.
all right.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience to speak for or against the ordinance? Hearing is closed. Item 6A1, second reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Trinidad, Colorado, allowing storage containers, shipping containers only on a temporary basis on private property. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Motion okay?
No, not for me, sorry.
No, sir.
Nope.
No.
With those changes that we're talking about, do we have to, can we amend that without having to table this or any issues? Or can we just?
I'm sorry, Mayor, would you ask the question?
Should I amend my motion to include the changes?
High density, low
Yes.
density, and
Yeah.
historical preservation.
I'd like
Yes.
to amend my motion to include the, changes that were made to include high density, low density, medium density,
Historic preservation.
historic preservation. All right.
Private property.
Private property.
We've had a second on that already, so you're just amending it. So my question going back, last.
Yes.
Should we, you know, because of the, any other changes that we discussed that were in the possibility of changing? Or just leave it as it is?
You mean the questions council raised? We'll bring answers back to you, and if I understand your question correctly, Mayor, we'll propose changes or other ordinance,
Okay.
other new ordinances.
Okay.
Okay,
Does
that
that
makes sense.
tabled, sir?
No.
That should, okay, that's my question.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, call the vote, please.
Bernardo,
Yes.
Goodall.
Yes.
Griego.
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item 7, unfinished business, we have none. Item 8, consideration of appointment of Doug Holder to the Space to Create Commons Oversight Board. Doug? Hi. Here? Have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, call a vote?
Bernardo,
Yes.
Goodall.
Yes.
Griego.
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles.
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item 8B, consideration of appointment for Alfonso Berendarian, is that? Berendarian, okay, to the Urban Forestry Board. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Is there a first and a second? Any discussion on his appointment? Call a vote, please.
Bernardo,
Yes.
Goodall.
Yes.
Griego.
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item C, consideration of bid results for the purchase and installation of equipment for 4 new patrol vehicles. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Chief, could you come forward? We had 2 bids that were received, and there was a low bid, actually not a low bid, the second bid from MHQ for $69,706.36. So,
There was an error. Avtech actually came in at $70,659.93. If you look at their, I'm assuming you guys have their packet here. On the bottom, so the total on that, for the actual patrol vehicles that are gonna have overhead light bars and stuff was 56. We forgot a line in there for the prisoner partition, so that jumped the price up to $58,568.25.
From Abstract?
From Aptech, yeah, so they came in actually about a few $100s higher than MHQ, so.
So that total amount was how much?
$70,659.93 from Aptech.
Chief?
So, the whole idea is that we equip all the cars the same, and the ones that we have in fleet right now have been done by MHQ, so the equipment's gonna be similar, some of it's a little updated, just because some things changed, but the idea is to keep all the cars the same, so if I have to jump in his car or him in mine, we, it's automatic, you know what to do without having to relearn something else.
Any questions for him?
No, that makes perfect sense, particularly in tactical situations where it's necessary to just react instinctively. You don't have time to be fumbling around with switches.
Is there any law that requires that, you're talking about cloud storage on these units, is there any law that requires that the minimum amount of time that these are accessible?
Yeah, that's for the cameras, that's the next one.
That's the next one over.
Yeah.
That's the next one, yeah.
Never mind.
Are, with these, updates, are they gonna be compatible with the new technology that we have already in the new vehicles as it is?
Yes.
So that way when you're dispatched, the dispatcher can be able to monitor without any interference from any of the
Yes.
radio frequencies, et cetera?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, when we go to these companies, they work with all the big companies that do the dispatch and the radios and the lights and the sirens, they all make it integrate together, so they don't mess with each other.
Yeah, you don't want feedback or
No,
something, you know?
no, yeah, they make it work like a clock. I don't know how they do it, but I'm not an electrician, so.
No questions? None?
I have nothing.
Joe?
Right now, Charlie, then after the four new patrol vehicles that we purchased, how many in the fleet combined?
So we'll have a total
I'm
of,
not saying the junky ones, I'm saying the ones that
oh,
are.
the good
ready to
ones,
run.
or whatever.
So that's for this year, 4, 5, 6. We've acquired, 8 new patrol vehicles in the past 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, we've been getting 2 a year. But the bad part is, I still don't have the 4 that we ordered.
Yeah.
I don't have 18s or 19s yet, but they did get paperwork here at City Hall for the 18s. They just haven't showed up yet.
And how long would it take to get these police cars?
It takes up a minimum of 90 days from the order from the factory. What got screwed up this last year is Ford changed the model year. They redid the car, and they closed the factory down, so we couldn't order until a certain date. So we ordered the ones from last year, and then we ordered the ones from this year, and we're still waiting. So.
Is that because of the carbon monoxide issue?
That and just a total redesign of the car, just a better design, and they completely redid a lot of that.
And these will be the Challenger or Charger?
No, the SUVs, the
regular
SUVs, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And they're all-wheel drive, they're
Right.
all that
Not
stuff.
four-wheel, all-wheel.
No, all-wheel, okay.
Well, the only question I have, and this has to do with not only this, but the next line I don't know what we're gonna be talking about. Was there any other questions? Or was that-
No.
Is that, where you're talking about that the reason for going is because it's more uniform, because you purchased this equipment from this company before.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanna make sure that this doesn't put us, I know we have that option to, okay, a lesser or a more amount.
Well, but it came the other way though.
And I just don't want to put us in a predicament.
Yeah.
That, another company come back and say, well, MHQ is, or MHQ is
Right.
going to get it every time.
No. So in fact, they were actually the higher bidder.
They were.
Once Mike redid
Yeah,
the numbers.
they were
Yeah,
higher.
they were higher by.
We missed one piece of equipment that they said, you guys
Right.
need this piece of equipment.
Right.
If it's not in your bid, so if you add it's a prisoner partition to keep the
Right.
bad guys away from us.
Yeah, I understood that part, but I just wanted to make sure that doesn't put us in a predicament.
No.
Because if other people, I know we have that option to okay a higher bid. I know
Sure.
that's okay.
No, MHQ is actually the lower bid.
And the third company decided not to bid because they couldn't get competitive pricing on the equipment we wanted to admit that parking stuff.
I just, one more thing.
Sure.
I'd just like to say to the citizens of our city that, we have to do this to protect these people of this town and protect our officers, and it's not like money that we just have and we're throwing away. This is a very important subject that we address, this council and all of us, so, Charlie, all I could say is God bless you guys, and to be safe, and
Thank
we're
you.
trying to make it safe for you,
Thank you.
okay?
Any other questions?
No.
Call vote, please.
Benado,
Yes.
Goodall.
Yes.
Griego.
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Charlie.
Item D, consideration of La Puerta Business Improvement District 2020 operating plan and budget. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Mike, do you have anything for us?
Nothing really, Mayor, other than, per state law, they're required to, the business improvement districts are required to submit their operating plan and budget to you by September 30th. They met that criteria. It's pretty much the same, actually, a few items are lower, the legal fees are lower, their accounting fees are lower. Basically, we have 30 days to approve it once they submit it, so that's why it's on tonight's agenda.
Okay. Discussion, Mr. Matei?
No, it seems like this is necessary to keep the project moving.
Okay.
I think there's an error.
There is.
Capital Projects Fund.
May I approach?
Sure.
We noticed while we were sitting back here that there's actually 2 errors in the budget. They're both mathematical errors. In Exhibit B, the Business Improvement District budget for 2020, ending fund balance is not 85,000, it should be 35,000. And on the next page, Capital Projects Fund, ending fund balance is not $50, it's $50,000. So there are 2 mathematical
I was
errors.
wondering about that $50.
$50.
The zeros are missing.
Yes. Yes.
Were those the questions that you had?
That's the, I found one, I didn't find the other one. Alrighty, no, I have no other.
Yeah, under the financial plan and budget, which is section 6, the E section, Urban Renewal Authority, it says the district has entered into the CSA with the city of Tora to allow the BID or a business improvement district to collect or receive from Tora, 1, all of the district's mill levy revenue, including from incremental growth, 2, a city sales tax increment of 2.25%, and 3, 100% on the property tax increment from La Puerta and the Toyota support payment to BID or business improvement operations, developer reimbursements, and future bond issuances. I just want to make sure that that tax increment of 2.25% is only in the district, which includes La Puerta, so that way everyone in the general population can be aware of that.
Yeah, that was brought up.
Thank you.
It is. Business Improvement District funds are only collected on the area that they serve. So it is only on this adjacent map, or attached map, which is La Puerta and Toyota. Those are the only areas that they cover.
Great. And just so people out there are aware, and I guess I'm going to direct this question to Counselor, there's no issues then related to Tabor.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
That was my only thought that I wanted to address.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, on page 6, I think it's the challenges to development. Is there anything about this paragraph that suggests that the city's commitment is increasing to the project?
And I'm sorry.
D, challenges to development?
Page 6.
Is it 6 or 8? Hold on.
Challenges to development. No, I don't believe so. 100. Basically, as you well know, what a business improvement does is they tax themselves to help pay for the public infrastructure over a longer term.
What is the purpose of challenges to development?
Is that illegal?
Well, I just want to make sure it's not obligating the city to take any of these things on for ourselves.
It does not. The funding stays 100% within the district.
Why is it there?
I do.
Can it be stricken?
Well, I would want to confer or consult with Malcolm Murray before, who's really helped us with this.
Just, it can only obligate us, it can't defend us. So it anticipates $2.5 million, a lot more than that, and that wasn't in here last year, I must believe.
I don't know why it's in here. I can tell you that the two attorneys have spent about a year on this. I can't tell you why
Well,
it's
why
here.
does Malcolm want it here, is my question, and that's my question for you, Les.
You know, Councilman Wiles, I mean, some of this language, like in number 3, the district being able to finance, start, and complete the construction of public improvements of general benefit to the development, it seems to me as if that does set forth a number of obligations of the business improvement district. I'm not sure that it's all
Okay, but-
one-sided and inuring to our benefit.
No, D, challenges to development, talk about the city funding things.
So if we look at those line by line, one is funding by the city in concert with the district of the reconstruction of the sewer outfall line under and downstream from the proposed Americana Road improvements. What we're talking about there, what they're talking about there is the city infrastructure which runs
No, I
through La
understand
Puerta.
that, I understand that, but I don't like it in writing. I understand that it has to be done, but I don't want any implication of 50-50, 60-40, 2/3, 1/3. I understand that has to be done, but that's for another topic of discussion.
But I see what you're saying. And you're right, it is talking about impediments to development, and it's basically saying issues that they may have with respect to their obligations, right? I understand that. So, I would wanna confer with council for, you know, La Puerta, before we just would strike their language. I think that would be fair.
I guess I'd like to know if it does stand, why it needs to be here.
Okay.
Honestly, I think, when I read this, I think really what your attorney is saying here is there are challenges to development that you must be aware of. That this guarantee of there's no guarantee that the city is going to complete this sewer line. There's no guarantee that you're going to be able to generate the revenue that you anticipate.
Yeah, that's not what it says.
But you know what, if you read down further in that paragraph, it says, in that regard, the city and the district have entered into a June 24, 19 La Puerta Phase 1 development agreement. So according to that, we have already entered that development agreement.
But it doesn't contemplate Americana Road.
The one
Does
that
not,
we,
I don't think so.
I think it
thought we
did.
struck that. I thought that was a big, does it?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
The
you.
development agreement does contemplate Americana Road.
All
So
right, then
basically,
maybe I'm corrected.
well, I guess interpretation is everything, but I am interpreting that these are issues that we're having with the project, but that they're ongoing, and in that regard to these problems, that we signed that development agreement June 24th.
Okay, Counselor, if you can just confirm that nothing in here is outside the development agreement, then I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because this is a little bit old for me.
Yeah, I'm not an attorney.
Yeah.
So,
In that regard,
if you want, based on, the state statute, if you want supplemental, information, you can request it of us and we can get back to you and have another 30 days, but the information, can't be later than December 5th, so.
I think that gives us ample amount of time, even if we were to have it the first week of November to have a meeting, once we are able to confirm.
Yeah, I just wanna make
Like
sure
within a
we're not
week and a half, 2
stepping into
weeks.
some obligation, and, I just wanna confirm that everything there is, Ms. Griego said is contemplated in the CSA.
I remember the Americana Road being in there too.
So in that case, whoever, vote to, or call the motion on that to withdraw the motion? Because we have a motion and a
Well, I
second.
hope that we table.
And then we'll say that we can
Yeah,
table.
okay.
I don't know who made the motion to approve.
I did?
Yes.
I removed my motion.
Who seconded that?
Well, Carlos.
Okay.
I
I'll
move
remove
that
that
we
second.
table the item until, we get further information from Mr. Gabrielson and Mr. Downs.
Do you have a second on that?
Second.
Call the vote for our tabling, please.
Benado,
Yes.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item E, first reading of an ordinance authorizing the master services contract dated October 8, 2019, between the Trinidad Police Department and Lens Lock Incorporated to provide for body cameras, data storage, and professional services, and setting a hearing date for consideration of said ordinance to 6 p.m. on November the 6th, 2019. Could I have someone to introduce?
I would gladly introduce.
Could I have a motion?
Yes.
And a second?
Second.
Chief?
So, we tested all three, well, we tested two of the three cameras. Lens Lock was by far the better camera, the officers liked it better. Body worn was also a good camera, but it's a little more expensive. So we're recommending Lens Lock in the contract.
Okay. And just for public information, we received 3 bids. The low bid was for $141,300. And there was a resolution for the first year of $30,000 because of this put this into a debt over a period of 4 or 5 years. That's why we have an ordinance on this particular issue. Any questions? Mr. Protecting. Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
Are there any laws pertaining to the retention of these?
So yeah, there's certain that we have to keep forever, and there's most are after the cases are disposed. But you know, we've been doing our own server, and it's not been the most efficient way to do it, and it's kind of scary that we might lose something. Our new IT person strongly suggests the cloud, and I think after doing the demo of this, I can see how much more beneficial and secure that is. So that's definitely the way to go with the storage or a portion of it.
And then the 250 gigabytes cloud storage that the low bidder had, that's not enough for what you guys.
No, not for the number of officers and the number of recordings we have. Any contact we have is the officer is required to turn on the camera. So if that contact's 10 minutes or an hour, that camera has to be on.
Stays on the whole
Right.
time. I'm through, yeah.
Question, maybe this is more towards staff. Under source of funds, it didn't give anything there, and I'm guessing it's coming from their budget?
No, we were anticipating marijuana.
Again.
So the first portion of it was already approved for marijuana. The portion we're looking at now is the 5-year commitment. So years 2 through 5 is gonna be $27,825 per year. And
From the marijuana taxes?
well, that would be yet to determine whether we put that in my budget or what have you, but it's gonna be a recurring cost for my department.
For 5 years.
For 5
That's
years.
why the ordinance, but, yeah, then, like Charlie said, the initial was from the marijuana fund that.
So shouldn't we have something there in the ordinance to reflect that that's where the source of funds are coming from? Otherwise, it would reflect that it comes from their budget. Unless I missed it here where it states it, other than, 'cause on page 3, it goes right into the Lens Lock, description of all the prices, et cetera. Especially now that we have new, council members coming in, I want them to read back on this and say, well, where were they thinking this money was coming from? Because otherwise that may put a pin in your budget there.
Source of funds is blank.
So yeah, we'll have to look at the future for the next years to come. Just as a side note, this is cheap insurance. Those body cameras have saved us.
I'm not disputing
a
that,
lot.
I just wanna make sure that for people in the future, they know where the fundings are coming from.
Right.
Otherwise, you're gonna either have to ask for a bigger budget,
Right.
which is gonna have to say, well, how did they get funded before? And when someone comes in that may not know anything, if they come back and read this ordinance, they're gonna say, well,
Okay.
Well, why are we telling the future council where the money should come from?
just so they know where we decided to put it or to collect it from. Just for
Why are we
posterity.
deciding that for future council, I guess I'm asking?
I just wanna know where the
I
source of
think
funds.
Charlie and Mike are saying that that's
Well-
for the future council to determine. And I'm saying, and you're saying, let's instruct them.
I'm not saying instruct them, I'm just saying let them know where we chose to get the money from, because in the source of funds, it doesn't have anything. Normally when we have a choice
Oh,
of
you're
where.
talking about just for this year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because it doesn't state where we are getting these
I
funds
agree.
from at all. If they wanna change it later, that's fine, but
Okay, so, we can amend this for the second reading of this ordinance and add some language to that effect.
yes, sir.
Yeah. No other questions?
Nothing from me.
Cause this is going to give us 34 body cams, correct?
let's see,
There was 30 plus 4.
Yes, yeah, and these body cams they're owned by them. So if anything happens to it, we just send it and they give us a new one.
Out of curiosity, how many officers do we actually have out on patrol?
So there's 25, we got 25, but these are the backup cameras that we're gonna have for total.
So we'll have about 9.
Yeah, and we're anticipating more officers, hopefully,
Okay.
to get passed so that will cover the whole 30.
Sure.
You know, it's kind of a scary feeling to me, it's that, you know, we talked about our budget and the shortfall that we're gonna have with this budget coming up. And I do agree with Carlos, I'm kind of worried about where this is gonna come out of. And everybody talks about marijuana tax and all this kind of stuff, marijuana. You know, it's just like rolling the dice in Vegas. You're looking at 5 years or what,
It's a
5
5-year
years here?
contract.
You know, just like gambling. That marijuana tax goes down, and here we are stuck, you know. I firmly believe in giving you all the equipment that police officers need, or firemen, or whatever. But, you know, it's kind of a scary feeling. When you look at that budget that we talked about in the meeting here, and we have a shortfall, and then we say, well, we take some more of this marijuana money. And everybody thinks we have a lot of money. There's still money there, but.
I think before you do that, one thing I think that maybe we can do is that, let's say, even at the end of this year, that we have an excess amount of marijuana money. That's a possibility we can just pay them off, correct?
Yeah, there's nothing.
There's no limitation on that?
There's no.
Okay.
So if there's a possibility either this year or next year, that might be actually
We typically do have surplus.
Right.
And then we'll know about that at the end of the
Right.
first quarter
Right, yeah.
of 2020.
I still have a statement and kind of, from my point of view, when you look at any lawsuits that have gone before our police department, that's the first thing they look at is those body cams. And I think to protect the officers' integrity and also to protect the liability, CIRSA, I'm sure would love that we have those body cams.
I'm not saying.
No, but I'm
not
saying-
saying about the camera itself being purchased. I'm saying about the
yeah, but
purchasing of the marijuana money that everybody thinks we're gonna have every single year.
You have to take things like that into consideration.
The big question here is, it just sounds like from Carlos and, Mr. Donato is, the funding portion,
Source.
the source of that, and I think that's what we're talking about. Okay. Thank you, Charlie.
All right,
Thanks, Shane.
thank you.
Thanks.
If there's no further discussion.
Do we need to make an amendment to have that language added to demonstrate where the source of funds is?
They'll bring that
We'll
forward.
carry forward
on the second reading.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought this is the first reading.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There's no further discussion, call vote please.
Benado,
Yes.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles.
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item 9, council reports. Matei?
Very little to report. I was at the meet candidates night. Mr. Goodall did an exceptional job presenting our position on the capital improvement.
Thank you, sir.
Bravo.
Succinct. Well done.
Thank you very much. You'd almost thought I'd practiced it when the bell dinged, I read the last word.
Timing was impeccable.
Yeah, Michelle, like that was
I have nothing.
I was fortunate enough to take part of the Purgatory River Cleanup Day 2 Saturdays ago, put on by Ms. Julie Knudsen from the Purgatory Watershed Partnership. And there was a great turnout of volunteers who showed up to help. Ms. Ogletree was there, I believe the press was there to a certain degree, and also some other individuals who were just on the room that I can't recognize right now. But we were able to collect quite a bit of debris. One of the things that I noticed, besides little things that blow around, was just a lot of plastic trash bags from the grocery stores. They were just everywhere, and I don't think they're always from people where we think that are coming from a homeless population living under our bridges, etc. They blow, and they end up everywhere. So I think after seeing all that and collecting it, along with other debris that comes from other businesses that are just neighboring because of dumpsters that sometimes are overwhelmed, or people just put stuff by those dumpsters and may have a chain, it was really unfortunate that we have all this plastic debris just littering our trees and brush and et cetera. So I'm probably going to be bringing forward some information in a hopeful work session pertaining to something that we can try to mitigate with the plastic bags. I think it's a discussion that we should be having here pretty soon, not to just get rid of them, to have a ban, but maybe a way that we can create a fee that is imposed upon by our grocery stores, that we can create an educational platform to discuss with people about how we take care of our area. And those plastic bags, and I mean, I collect them around my family's business. They inundate me a lot of the times, and we have no place to recycle them, so they end up just going into our landfill. So anyways, it was a great day for people to get together and take care of our river, because it is a viable source for us to hopefully have new types of revenue coming in for an industry that is related to outdoor recreation. And I think it was great that so many people came out to help beautify that area. That's all that I have.
Okay. I strongly agree with you on that front, and I think we ought to consider the possibility of a ban on the plastic bags. A lot of municipalities are doing it. And what it means is that you've got something now that's paper and degradable and much better for a landfill. So I support you,
I have information I'm more than happy to pass off. There are a couple communities that have done a complete ban. Telluride and Boulder, they have had some kickback in lawsuits. There's also a big one in Aspen, but the communities that have done well have been Breckenridge, where they've imposed a fee, and now they had a city council meeting last Tuesday where they discussed raising that fee from 10 cents a bag now to 25 cents a bag after having this rule in effect for 6 years without any litigation. The only thing is people have just gotten used to it.
I look forward to getting your update.
Yeah, and in fact, the fee structure has paid for a staff member. They call it a sustainability officer, to where they can actually go out and collect these things and do the information. And yet, still for the people that come to visit, they create special bags, so that way it describes what they're trying to accomplish through that educational effort, and people aren't completely just, without a bag. And now there are people of exemption, like retailers who maybe have a thicker ply plastic. The ones that they really were gung-ho on are the very thin ones that we get at Safeway and Walmart. Not to just throw them under the bus, but any other large grocer who does that. Correct. And there's an easy way to monitor it. If you just count the bags when they come in on their pallets. And you can find out what you should be anticipating for a fee. And again, you put it back in just like we've done with the water plant for $25 per pound grow. You put it back into that type of area, so it's not a tax.
Yep. It's a fee.
I'm happy to give that to you. If we can maybe get a work session on that, I would really be interested in that. Can I continue? Sorry, I forgot one thing. You brought up in our meeting last week about the budget, about how we can think about getting other revenue sources. And I think that at this time, it's definitely thoughtful to discuss it at least, maybe re-implementing a parking structure fee with kiosks, as opposed to putting meters, because we have a downtown area that's highly visited by out-of-town people who are parking in our green mile, if you will, in those areas, that would happily pay a quarter for an hour or two. And we can we can implement a parking plan for our residents and retailers where they can park for free in our municipal areas. And it's a way that we can be done, or we can do it, and I think it's a way to generate more revenue, so that way when we have these budgetary restrictions, we have another revenue stream that can help.
Yeah, as a merchant, I couldn't support you more on that. Just as far as making parking enforceable, because right now it's not.
It cost me $10 to park in downtown Denver for 4 hours.
Yep.
The last, 2 weeks ago when I went to Denver, that conference, overnight it was $47 to park in there. Yeah.
Yeah, we could do something cheap, like a quarter for an hour. It doesn't have to be an exuberant amount, but something that builds.
Yeah, it does.
I couldn't agree with you more. I was hoping that would happen long ago, but
So anyway, I thought from the last conversation, we need to find another way to start building revenue. This is one way. They do it in Summit
Well, it's
County.
also going to build sales tax too, because if people don't park for 4 hours in front of a liquor store, they're going to sell a lot more beer and a lot more sales tax for this.
I think it would create a culture where all of our retailers now are giving those spaces that they normally covet in front of their building to their patrons who are paying their bills.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got to get used to walking a block or two to get to our businesses versus being right in front of our own door. It's just a thought.
All right, for me, I don't have a whole lot, cause I was in Germany for most of the past few
Go ahead and
weeks.
brag about that, okay?
Yeah, it was so much fun. But I will tell you, my dear friend Catherine ran the Berlin Marathon. I ran the fun race. The fun race was a 6K, which, let me tell you something, that's not nothing for me, okay?
Yeah, it's not.
I'm pretty sure I came in, there were thousands of people running it, I'm pretty sure I came in last. Now, the reason I'm pretty certain I came in last is at the end of the race, I did not see any of the other runners. They were all in costumes. And I had to ask passers-by the directions to the Olympic Stadium. But anyway, I did finish the race, and I got there before the bus left to go back to the hotel. And I got
Was
a
that
picture to prove it.
Was that
here.
with beer in hand?
No, no, but it was a blast. I had a terrific time.
Glad to have you back.
Thank
Glad to have a
you,
good
thank you,
trip.
thank you. And I do wanna compliment Rusty. We had a committee of 4, 5, 6 people on the capital improvement fund. He did more than half the work on everything. I mean, well more than half the work. Thank you for stepping up on that.
It's a great cause.
Yeah.
So, we did attend the CML meeting. We haven't had a meeting since then, have we? I was thinking maybe I was like, wait, did we already talk about this? So on the 3rd, me and Councilman Matei and Councilman Lopez attended a meeting in Pueblo with the CML. And so we have a few things. The census is coming up soon, and rural areas are gonna be a key point to get counted. There is $6 million available in grants. I know this is more of a county deal, but we need to make sure we get a hold of them. They need that money applied for and that money out to the rural areas.
COG is working on that to represent the
Okay.
county area.
So, also, they're needing a host for the 2020 October meeting next year, and it was strongly pushed, since we were
We
one
didn't
of the
have a
only
choice.
communities that was there, that they would like for us to host the meeting next year in October. So we ought to start thinking about that and making preparation. Also, right now, I don't know what shape Mr. Valentine bridges are in, but there is $4 million in grants available through the CML right now that need to be applied for. If we have some work that needs to be done, that is something we need to look into.
Okay.
In November, Mayor, they're having the Mayor Summit. I didn't know if you were aware of that. I wrote that down.
But I know but I'm not sure what date that was.
Alright, they didn't give us a date, they just said in November, best I could
I
remember.
know it was coming, yeah.
I also had the opportunity a couple of weeks back, or a little over a week, of attending the changing of command general ceremony at Fort Carson. We went from General George to General McFarland. It's quite a ceremony, and I was very honored to be able to attend that. Update on 2B, as most people know, the ballots hit everybody today, so I have been putting up more banners around town. Friday we'll have a half-page ad, flag banners at the bottom of the paper, marijuana expenditures, capital improvement expenditures. That's been our big push, is why do we need to improve this with the marijuana money? So I showed them, here's what the money's going on. And then in November, right before election, we'll hit the newspaper and everything again. So we're staying on it. I have buttons, stickers, everything else. So we're gonna try and hit the stores and post them on everybody. And so spread the word. 2B, vote yes. And I think that's all I've got.
Yeah, good job.
I'm the quiet, I don't have nothing.
You have nothing?
If I may, before you, the CML contact with Mercy talked about that we attended was
Oh.
at the
Yeah.
Center for American Values in Pueblo. If you have not been there, I recommend that you do take the time to go. In fact, we were there last Thursday, and yesterday on our day off, took my wife and our visiting sister-in-law and her husband up there. In there are pictures of the then surviving 140 recipients of the Medal of Valor, taken by the same photographer.
Yeah.
And as I stated,
I
I
got
got there
goosebumps
yesterday,
right
and
now just talking
I got there
about
yesterday,
it.
and was able to sit through the whole presentation by one of the volunteers. And that photographer goes anywhere, any place that veteran wants to have that picture taken. And they're all similar, and I tell you what, it's like walking in the Sistine Chapel, it's holy ground.
Yeah.
Just to listen to the story and then read the quotes that are on the bottom of each picture from that recipient. Bought the book of the quotes, bought the book of the whole picture, that, you know, $45 for a book of books, but well worth your time. And as I told you guys that night, it was like a hallowed ground.
Like I said,
I've
we
never
got
been to
goosebumps
Arlington, but I
right
tell you
now.
what, you get goosebumps in there.
Yeah.
Looking and thinking of the sacrifices those men made when held in consideration of the current state of affairs.
And it's on the Riverwalk, what a beautiful location and everything, worth
And
the visit for sure.
It takes your breath away, and then if you get a chance to watch the video and listen to them speak, it's unbelievable. It's
Yes.
very humbling.
Where is that?
101 South Main,
Okay.
and there's a 5-story parking garage right across the street.
Okay.
It's right, yeah,
Just,
right on
just
the, right
cross,
on the
yeah,
Riverwalk.
once you cross the River Rock on
Yeah.
Main Street, you're there.
Okay.
And
It's
what's
on the
it-
west side of the street, the garage is on the east
What's
side.
it called again?
The Center for American Values.
There you go, Center for American Values.
It's a refurbished, building and,
Yeah.
It used to be a sports store for
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is amazing
Leonard
though.
was saying.
It is amazing.
That must be similar to, I went to one that's in Indianapolis, and it's kind of like on a Riverwalk type deal, and they do have audio of what all these men did to earn, you know, that honor, and it was pretty interesting.
And then they have at the east wall of the hall,
Pueblo
so yeah,
recipients.
a presentation of each of the 4 Pueblo recipients.
Yeah.
One of them that was of particular interest to me is Mr. Crawford. In World War II, he's a recipient of Medal of Honor, came back and got a job at the Air Force Academy in 1957 as a custodian.
Wow.
Yeah.
Push his broom, push his broom, push his
That's
broom. And one of the cadets there was doing research and realized where this William Crawford from Pueblo had received this medal. And they called him Mr. Bill. And they went out and asked him, Mr. Bill, I'm reading about this, is that you? And he says, yes. He said it was one day, a long time ago. And kept pushing his broom. But ever since then, his stature at the Air Force Academy was greatly refined.
Yeah.
And it's broke down by wars, comes down to World War II, then to Korea, then Vietnam, and then.
Current wars, Afghanistan.
Yeah, it's kind of big. It's very kind of cool to see that.
Yes.
Had a conference call with CDOT Director Lou, and just to let, she is going to be down here next week sometime. And Mike and I are going to have breakfast with her, and then we're going to look at exit 8, we're going to look at exit 13, and also, or exit 11, and we're also going to look at exit 14 out here. And so we'll talk about those and see what issues that we have with those. So she's going to be down here that morning, generally for about an hour and a half, and then they got, I guess, a meeting at the quad, I think, later on at 9:30 in the morning. It's gonna be pretty quick.
Yeah, periodic meeting.
So it's gonna be pretty quick.
Is it possible to also discuss exit 6 for, you know, when we do have the park coming in? Because you have like that short entrance and then that quick.
That's
That's
exit 8.
Exit 8.
Exit 8.
8?
And that's the reason,
That's where the headquarters is.
that's the reason why she's coming down, is
6
that's the
isn't
main
that
reason.
much better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
When you're on the northbound side, the southbound side is much better, but northbound is kind of.
But that's the primary reason, I believe, why she's coming down here for, to look at that, other than the meeting that probably on the day.
QPR.
Yeah. Also, you know, last weekend when they had that cleanup in town, I couldn't go to that because I was given a tour to the Women's Press Club of Colorado, and they brought in about 37 people from across the state. There was somebody here from New Mexico, there was Kansas, Nebraska. They had their director from the national level that was here. I did a presentation about Colorado, about Trinidad Friday night, and then I did a tour with them on the trolley Saturday morning during that time. And they were pretty impressed with what's going on in town. And I'm gonna try to find out is Lee Coca, or Lee, she's part of that group. So I wanna try to find out, because as I was speaking that night, they were taking notes down of all the stuff that night and the next morning. So I'm gonna ask her if they have anything that they've written on, if they can send them to us. I'd like to see what they're writing about Trinidad. So there were about 37 people, I believe, here that night and that day. It's interesting. They also, later on Sunday, they had a tour of all the mining camps, which Adrian took them on, and Alex Gerardo took them on, which, so we did that. Last week, Mike and I sat down with, the county, and we're talking about the Colorado Legislative Day, and we're talking about, that's December the 9th, from 10 to 12, and kind of the same group of people that we had in the past, our state legislators, or Los Angeles County. They're going to be leading this year's legislative days. We're also going to invite the national representatives. I thought I saw Kathy Garcia today, so she's aware, and she said she'd make it for sure.
What was that date?
12/9?
12/9.
Where?
It'll be at the college again, at the,
Binder
Room.
Is it? That is the 9th.
What time?
10 o'clock, 10 to noon. I attended the CML policy meeting last Friday, and some of the things that they're talking about, just, I'm not gonna go through, but just what came up this time around, they're talking about municipal mail ballot procedures. There's some, I'm not sure if there are changes that they wanna try to do with that. We're talking a little bit about affordable housing, inclusionary zoning to include rental housing development. We're talking about fire police pensions, which is something I've talked to Mike about, that's could impact our budget, so that's gonna be we gotta watch that. They're talking about public safety, E911. That's going to be kind of controversial. Chief already left, but I want to talk to him a little bit about that. And then again, they brought up the fact about the single-use plastic prohibitions. So that's something that we're going to be discussing for some kind of legislation. There's some wastewater conservation master plans. There was some building code plumbing inspections that we're talking about. There are also some issues about recall elections, sales tax simplification, telecommunications, a definition of unserved, and what that's talking about is broadband in like rural areas, like our areas, and how there are so many areas that just don't have broadband at all, and kind of defining underserved and unserved period. So we want to try to develop, put some legislation out there to help those unserved and underserved areas. Talked about some transportation funding, and wastewater contamination, the PFAS. I think Mike's aware of what that is. And these are just some of the issues that came up, and we're going to have another meeting in December. And we'll probably have more items on there and probably more in-depth discussion on those particular issues. And some of these issues they're supporting, some are neutral on them, some they're not supporting. So it just depends on which issue it is, and I'll bring that forward on the next meeting. Hopefully, get to that.
I think we're gonna be discussing that here this Friday in our meeting,
Okay.
all those policy issues, the action items and then the information items.
You brought up the issue about parking, and how we can get more fees. And one of the things that we need to try to do, and I've heard this by other residents, is we need to try to create some additional parking in the downtown area. And one area that we could probably do something with is the old dairy, because that is that city property now. So we might consider looking at doing some parking area so that it's close to town. So when either some of the businesses can park up there themselves, or people that are going to come and stay for a day or something.
There's also the area behind Marty Feeds.
There's not that.
That's private property,
I thought we held title on that parcel.
way on the other end of the block.
The other area that is,
On the other end of the block.
that we've been talking about is the area right behind the West Main convenience store.
Yep.
That entire area there.
Just
And-
north of the
Right.
Shell station.
So that's something that Mike and I have been discussing.
That's a while.
Yeah. So there's some opportunities for additional parking. I think we just need to look at how we're going to utilize it best.
With the trolley stop and everything, that would be an excellent
Yeah.
location. I mean, they talked, former city manager's son had talked about getting that paved, working with CDOT, so that's definitely a conversation needs to be had with CDOT.
That's
You know
what,
what,
That
too?
is ongoing.
You know what, too, Mayor, though, in order to entice people to work on the outlaws, gonna have some kind of enforcement.
Yeah, it all boils to anything, a lot of the stuff we've been talking about, it boils down to enforcement, that's what we think, it boils down to that.
Well, I think with adding more officers, and that's what we're looking at doing, that's something that we should definitely ask for in return. So we're gonna get more people in return, we need more enforcement.
That's all I have, Mike, what you have?
Really don't have anything, Mayor, just I placed at your seating, flyer for the 2030 statewide historic preservation plan. Actually hosting it here October 17th, that's Thursday from 6 to 8. History Colorado is gonna come down and, they're working on the statewide preservation plan, so. If you feel inclined, Thursday, October 17th, 6 to 8, council chambers.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Hey, Mike, one of these bulletins we got, it had something, it mentioned something about the FCC regulations being changed and how it's going to impact our community with the revenues. Have you seen anything come through on that, or how it's gonna impact it?
I have not.
I think it was a CML. It was a
FCC regulation?
FCC regulation.
Yeah. They're changing the fees associated with it, so it said something about that it would probably impact smaller communities more than it would larger.
If you want,
So we do
Yes.
pay, certain fees for different bandwidths that we have. I will look into that.
Yeah, check it.
I was looking to see if they had anything in that telecommunications of the served or underserved.
Was it in our last?
It's one of these newsletters.
Yeah, one of our last CMLs, I think I
Not
remember
this one,
seeing
but the one
something
before.
on that, yeah.
Yeah, but if you're up there, you might
Yeah, I
ask,
can
see if
ask.
that's
Ask
something
them.
that maybe see around.
Todd, do you know anything about FCC regulation changes? Okay,
I see
just.
that one in there.
They're just now beginning to get a lot of information for legislation right now, so. We'll usually see, like I said, there was probably, 10 or 11 here, we'll probably see, 20 or 30 proposals out there, when it's all said and done.
That was the greatest city manager report ever done. That was just the best ever. Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay.
That serve as an example.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, indeed. And because it's my evaluation night, I don't dare report on it. So I will leave it at that.
Don't blame me on
See, that's why.
Item 11 executive sessions, 11A to discuss the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sales of real personal or other property interest under CRS Section 24-6-402, 4A Stone Ridge Metro District Number 2. Item 11B for discussion of personnel matter under CRS Section 24-6-4022F. Not involving any specific employees who have requested discussion of the matter in open session, any member of this body or any elected official, the appointment of any person to fill an office of this body, or of an elected official or personnel policy that do not require the discussion of matters personal to particular employees, city attorney evaluation.
No.
Motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
call the vote, please.
Donato?
Yes.
Goodall?
Yes.
Grayson? Yes. Lopez?
Yes.
Tuesday?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
Rico?
Yes.
Done.
Okay, think about 5 minutes.